Good morning, everyone. This is Nathaniel Rasmussen from Center Foundation. I guess it's not necessarily morning for everybody. Um, this year, we are doing recordings of these deeper dives into some of the details for Center Gives, and we hope that you find this information useful. I am joined today by our CFO and COO, Carrie Ryan, who will be your go-to resource for all things dealing with compliance and aligning your organization with federal rules and things like that. So I'll start off by giving you a brief overview of Center Gives, as if you had never heard of it before, and then I'll hand things over to Carrie, who will take things a little bit deeper into the intricacies of some of the decisions you will have to make as you prepare your campaign. What is Center Foundation? We are Center County's community foundation. We are ourselves a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission to foster a culture of giving, support, empower nonprofits, and spark positive community change has largely stayed the same for many years, and we're very actively engaged in our work. Since 1981, we've invested over 55 million in our community through grants and scholarships, and Center Gives is a great centerpiece to some of that work. Center Gives is our project, and we put it on as a 36-hour online giving event. So it'll start this Wednesday, May 6th at 8 a.m. and end Thursday, May 7th at 8 p.m. on centergives.org. We have a dedicated website for it. Anyone in the world can go to centergives.org and contribute to your organizations during this time. And any gift of $10 or more is eligible for our stretch pool and our prizes, which we'll get into a little bit later. Center Gives has a lot of things going for it. I think one of the things I really like about it is that it rallies an entire community for 36 hours around the causes that matter to the community. I think it's just a wonderful testament to the generosity of Center County and where people, invest in what they care about. And because it's a limited time and we provide some of those incentives with prizes and stretch pool, it creates this really exciting competitive spirit. Nonprofits aren't necessarily used to competing with one another in a traditional sense. So it's a little bit out of our comfort zone, but I think it ultimately really raises the visibility of all of the work that you're doing in the county and really gets people excited to support you. As an organization, you can use this opportunity to get your existing supporters excited about you again. In addition, though, it's a great way to grow your footprint and to learn about other people that care about your cause and increase visibility of your organization and addressing that cause. We try to provide a lot of trainings like this and other tools and promotional efforts to help you. And so everybody's kind of working together to promote this event, which is a really great part of the process because so many organizations can sort of speak with one voice and promote this great giving opportunity. And you can motivate your donors with the stretch pool, which is a prorated match and prize incentives as well. So let's get into that a little bit. We have two stretch pools again this year, just like last year. Our standard $300,000 stretch pool, thanks in part to our partnership with the Hamer Foundation. We are very grateful with that partnership. And then in addition to the standard stretch pool, we have an additional bonus stretch pool of 200,000. And the main threshold for getting there, we'll get into the details a little bit more, but the main threshold for getting to the 200,000 is you have to recruit at least 20 unique donors to give to your organization during the 36 hours. So we can talk more about how you might do that. And in a future recording, we will certainly be talking about that in our success series deep dive with Carrie Tolton, our development and stewardship director. But that's all you have to do to unlock even more bonus cash for your organization. In addition, we will again have $40,000 in prizes. Everybody's heard about Power Hours at this point. We have a lot of other types of prizes as well, lucky tickets, random drawings, Magic Minute, regional prizes, all kinds of things. People often ask me, how do we get assigned a Power Hour? And I just want to specify that that specific type of prize is open to all organizations for the most part. We do have a new wrinkle with that this year, but anyone can choose any listed Power Hour. We typically post the prizes in late April, and you can choose one for your organization to pursue. And the large organization and small organization with the most donors in that hour win that prize. So there's no assignment. You don't pick one with us. You just choose which one you want to advertise to your supporters. Now this year there is a new wrinkle because we are introducing the new Contender Power Hour, and that is a opportunity for organizations that didn't win one the previous year to win it this year. So if your organization did not win a Power Hour in 2025, you will be eligible for the new Contender Power Hour as well. So let's walk through the donation process a little bit. It's really easy for your donors to find your organization and give. They would simply go to centergives.org. Remember that the minimum gift amount is just $10. We accept all major credit cards, and the transactions are securely processed through our developer and Stripe to make sure that your transactions are protected. We do not, during CenterGives, accept cash or checks. So that is one thing to be aware of. That is not an option. We can only accept credit cards, and a few other examples we'll talk about later. For most donors, though, they will go to centergives.org and they can find the Give Now section, and they can search for an organization and add an amount right away. There's also that add another donation. So if they know they want to give to 5 organizations, they can do it right there on the homepage. Once they find the organizations they want to give to, they can read a little bit more about it and then click the Donate Now button as well. They can find organizations also by the search bar in the top right, or by clicking the organizations menu on the left, which will give you some filters to filter. I don't have that screenshot. But yeah, you can filter organizations by category. And this year we're also adding some regional categories. So you can filter by the area where you or your donor lives, which might be a good way to browse organizations they might want to give to. You then sort of build a cart, very similar to a shopping cart, in the sense that you can add organizations and decide how much you want to give to each. You can also add individual notes to each individual organization, and that gets passed along to your organization. So this is actually a good way if you're fundraising for different things during your Center Gifts campaign. You can instruct your donors to put in the note what they're choosing to support with their dollars. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but if you have different campaigns that you're trying to raise money for and you want to put together instructions for folks, you can use this note field for that. And we accept the donor's contact information. And they have an opportunity at the bottom to also support Center Gives directly. That just helps cover our expenses in putting on the event, just an option, and then they can submit the donation. The donor will then see a confirmation page on their screen summarizing their gifts and giving them a little bit of a thank you at this point. But this is primarily just to mark that the transaction has successfully happened. After that, donors will receive automatically via email a IRS tax receipt for their purposes. So that comes from Center Gives directly to the donor, which means that your organization does not need and actually should not be sending those receipts. It's important that sort of legally the donations that are coming in to Center Gives our donations to Center Foundation. So it is our responsibility to send those receipts, and therefore it is your responsibility not to send them. However, um, it is, of course, upon you to thank your donors, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. If your donors are not receiving their receipts, one thing we're encouraging folks to share with their donors this year is to add the from email address, which is centergives@centerfoundation.org, because sometimes these receipts do end up in spam folders and things like that. But if the donor, for whatever reason, does not receive their receipt in their email, they have a couple of options. During the event, they can scroll to the bottom of the page and resend a copy of their lost receipt. And then after the event concludes, after the 36 hours are over, there's also near the top of the page a lost receipt box to make that happen. And if both of those fail for whatever reason, you can always reach out to us at Center Foundation, and we will be happy to make sure that your donors get the receipts they're looking for. To reach us, you can call this number during the event or after, anytime, 814-237-6229. It is important to note, too, that if you do have some donors that are a little bit squeamish about entering their credit card online, or they just need a little extra support in filling in the form, we are here for all donors during Center Gives, and you can encourage them to call us and we will assist them. So now that the event's over, you're obviously, hopefully going to want to thank your donors, or perhaps during the event, you'll want to thank your donors. So this link on the Manage Organization page to download your data is your best friend. You might want to bookmark the download link, or at least just have that page open. I know some organizations like to download their donations every hour and then just call them up and thank them. That's a great opportunity to do that. So this data is available to you throughout the entire event and for several months after the event, actually until roughly the end of the year, you can access this data. And even afterwards, if you still need it, you can access it. You'll just need to reach out to us at Center Foundation first. But you do want to bookmark that URL because it's really important that you keep track of the folks that are giving to you. It'll open up into a spreadsheet that lists a lot of valuable fields, including the type of gift, a confirmation number that we can reference, name, phone number, contact information, all of that. New this year also, we will be normalizing the postal addresses for the donors. I know that a lot of organizations, ourselves included, struggle with the wide variability that people enter for their address and stuff like that. So this year, we've added a feature. There'll be some new columns here where the addresses match exactly the United States Postal Service standard for postal addresses. So you'll get the one that they typed in, but you'll also have a field that shows the address as the Postal Service sees it. And that should help you duplicate any duplicate records you might have as you track your donors moving forward. If there is an anonymous gift, then you'll just see the amount and the date stamp and you won't see the donor's name, and that's because the donor requested to remain anonymous. So obviously the main reason that you want to use this data is to thank your donors. Stewardship is kind of the key piece to maintaining a relationship with folks that care about your organization. So this downloadable spreadsheet is the starting point. We do recommend, and we'll be talking in other sessions a bit more about how you might use the list moving forward. But we do recommend that you devise some sort of strategy so that this data doesn't just live 1 year and then you start over again the next year, but you're keeping track of who's giving what when. There's very expensive software that offers this opportunity, but you can do it often, and I've done it myself in a spreadsheet just that you maintain for the campaign. And I think it's a really good way to go. All right, with that, that's kind of the high-level overview of how Center Gives works. But with that, I'm pleased to introduce Carrie Ryan, who will be walking you through a lot more detail about the rules and requirements to participate.
Great. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. Yeah, I'm going to, some of the stuff might seem like reiteration, but I'm going to go over to some of the things that Nathaniel touched on in a little bit more detail here to make sure that we're all in good stead with all the rules that we need to follow, both whether it's a Center Foundation rule, whether it is a state of Pennsylvania rule, or whether it's an IRS rule. So with that, let's dig in. Okay, so who qualifies for Center Gives? Anyone that is any org that's a 501c3. So if you're not a 501c3, you do not qualify. So no 501c4s or other types of orgs, only the 501c3s. You have to be in good standing with the IRS and with the state of PA. So what does that mean to be in good standing? So with the IRS, you have to have an IRS determination letter. You have to have filed your 990s timely. So, as part of our vetting process, that's why we're asking you for those things, just to make sure that everybody is up to date with all of the requirements of the governmental units. And once you have an IRS determination, we need to also make sure it hasn't been revoked by the IRS, because for any org that hasn't filed a 990 timely within 3 years, they can have their status revoked. So we also make sure of that. For the state, if you're required to file a BCO 10, you must have filed a BCO 10. Without that, we can't issue you your grant. So we've provided here some contact information and some links for you to go to determine, are you up to date? Are you required to file? Because there's certain requirements based on the size, based on the number of donations you've received and when you've received them. And if you didn't file a full BCO 10, did you file a BCO 23? So those are things that we're checking on to see, are you up to date? And if you've received your certificate registration for your registration with the charitable org, that you can, again, look at that link above, and it will tell you where you are with your BCO 10 and if your certificate is up to date. After that, if you've been approved by Center Foundation to participate, you've filled out your contract, and you're published on centergives.org, you're good to go. So a little bit more on the BCO 10s, in case you're not familiar with that. Who is required to do that? And this is a charitable org receiving more than $25,000 in gross contributions in a fiscal year. So you can pay attention to gross contributions. It's not necessarily grants, but contributions that you've received. And if this is your first year for receiving more than $25,000, you have within 30 days of that $25,000 level to get your BCO 10 filed. After that, you need to do it on an annual basis. And it needs to be postmarked no later than the 15th day of the 11th month following the close of your fiscal year. So if you're 12/31 year end, it's by 11/15 the next year. So a lot of times what happens is if you file it by the 15th, it takes them possibly about a month for them to get everything set and recorded on the website. So in between that time period, then we'd just be watching and make sure that it hits. So if you tell us you filed, and this time frame can come into play a lot of times for folks who are 6/30 year ends, and it's due by 5/15. As long as we see that BCO 10 go live, then we are able to issue you your payments at the end of Center Gives. Now, not to worry, we'll just hold them until we receive that information. So if it takes a little bit longer, that's okay. You'll still get your contributions. The other thing that's required for the 990 and the financial statements is based on annual contributions, is what type of financial statement you have to have. So if you're between 25 and 999.99, you can have an internal financial statement, a compiled, a reviewed, or an audit. And as it goes up in value, it goes higher scale of the type of financial statement you have. So from 100,000 to 249,999, you can have compiled, reviewed, or audited, and so on. So if you're over 750, you have to have an audited financial statement. So the link there shows in more detail the requirements for filing the BCO 10. Okay, so some orgs have specific exclusions or exemptions from filing a BCO 10. So if you fall into this category, really it's not dependent on the number of charitable contributions you get because you are automatically exempt. So if you're a law enforcement agency, religious, educational, hospital foundations, veterans, public nonprofit libraries, senior citizen homes, parent-teacher associations, corporations established by an act of Congress, or any org receiving less than $25,000 a year, you're exempt from filing a BCO 10. So a little bit more detail on what happens if you're out of compliance. So if you're out of compliance with the BCO 10, and the BCO 10, what that is giving you the right by the state of Pennsylvania to solicit charitable contributions. So you're supposed to have this in order to even solicit for any funds. So they have late filing fees that must be paid prior to them issuing you your certificate. And once you file, then the organizations who are out of compliance with the Bureau of Charitable Orgs will receive their Center Gives grants upon their compliance being reinstated. So again, this is your permission from the state of Pennsylvania to solicit contributions. So you do not want to be out of compliance with them. And what are qualifying contributions for Center Gives? So this is a little bit more detail than what Nathaniel provided, but like he said, it's a minimum debit or credit card gift of $10. There's no maximum gift amount, but only the first $10,000 per donor qualifies for the stretch pool percentage. So say, for instance, someone gives us $11,000 to go towards your organization. You'll still receive that extra $1,000, but it just won't count towards the stretch pool, only the first 10,000. And another key thing that starts in 2026 is non-itemizers can deduct up to $1,000 for single or $2,000 for married filing jointly for charitable contributions. So this is something that is a benefit to folks who are making contributions that prior to 2026, it was not this high. So to be able to deduct either $1,000 or $2,000 from the taxes is certainly something that we can share with our donors. In addition to those gifts that happen throughout those 36 hours online, we accept donor-advised gifts from Center Foundation funds. So this is a benefit of having a donor-advised fund at Center Foundation. We do not accept donor-advised gifts from outside of Center Foundation for a Center Gives grant. We also accept qualifying IRAs, either our RMDs or our QCDs, with a minimum. Here the minimum's a little bit different because there's a lot more work going into these. It's a value of $100 per org, as opposed to the $10 per org if you're giving with an online credit card. And for 2026, the IRS QCD maximum has been increased to $111,000. So this could be very beneficial to some of our donors who want to reduce their taxable income and make the maximum charitable gift that they can. So that has been increased to $111,000. We also accept gifts of appreciated stock, again with that minimum value of $100 per org. For both the IRA contributions and the gifts of appreciated stock, The date that those must be received by is April 24th. Again, there's a lot more additional work that goes in on the back end for us to get those loaded. So we need to receive those prior to the starting of the event. What doesn't qualify as a contribution? Like Nathaniel said, no checks or cash. That does not qualify. Other property doesn't qualify. Donor distributions from outside funds. So if somebody has a fidelity fund or another type of fund, those don't qualify for center gifts. Only the donor advised funds from Center Foundation qualify. This is another key one, gifts from an organization to itself. So if you have an organization credit card that you use, those don't qualify. You cannot make an organization to yourself. Any gift where the donor received benefit, and the term for that for the IRS is goods or services, beyond some exceptions. So we'll go over those exceptions in a minute. But another one that I want to absolutely make sure people understand is there's no sale of raffle, bingo, or lottery tickets. Those are counted as gambling by the IRS and not a charitable deduction. So anything involved with raffle, bingo, or tickets or lottery tickets is not a contribution for center gifts. So no goods or services, but what about? The center gives gifts receipt indicates no goods or services were received by the donor in exchange for the gift. There's no quid pro quo receipts. But what are the IRS exceptions to that? Let's take a look. There's a token exception where insubstantial goods or services that a charitable organization provides in exchange for contributions do not have to be described in the receipt. So if the fair market value of the benefit, the token item, does not exceed the lesser of 2% of the contribution or $132, that's a token exception. Or if the contribution made is at least $69.50 and the only item provided bear the organization's name or logo and the cost of the token item is within the low cost articles, which is $13.90 in 2026. Those are dollar amounts that are prescribed each year by the IRS. So that's why they're a little bit unusual, but those are the 2026 rules for those types of contributions. Also, free, unordered, low-cost articles are considered to be insubstantial. You give somebody, we see it at the bottom, you give them a pen, you give them a letter opener, something like that. The others would qualify as, if it was a hat or a mug, that cost less than $13.90 and somebody gave more than $69.50, that would be okay. But other items are not okay. Those are the token exceptions. There's also the membership benefit exception. And an annual membership of $75 or less is insubstantial if it provides in exchange for annual recurring rights, such as, we've got those all listed there. So some of you organizations out there are membership organizations. So if your membership is $75 or less and you only give the items listed below, that can still count as a contribution. If it's $76 or higher, it doesn't matter if those are the only things you're giving. It does not qualify as a contribution, and we would not qualify it during center gifts. So what are our guidelines? We've kind of gone over what the federal guidelines are, what the state guidelines are, but what are our guidelines, the Center Foundation guidelines for center gifts? So Center Gives is designed to support the work of the nonprofits serving Center County. And this is the spirit of the event that shapes our guidelines. So let's take a look at what our guidelines are. And our guidelines have improved throughout the years. When at the end of each event, we ask orgs for input. What did they think? What could we improve on? What worked? What didn't work. And so we're always trying to continuously improve this event to benefit the organizations that serve us here in Center County. So some of the things that we've done throughout the year is establish a Center Gives Success Series that you're enjoying now. We've had that prizes are awarded based on large and small size instead of just on an overall. We have some pre-event prizes. We allow donor advised gifts from Center Foundation funds. We allow the IRA contributions and the appreciated stock. We also have limited the stretch pool maximum to 10% of total. So if some organization had a tremendously successful campaign and it would have resulted in them getting more than 10% of the overall stretch pool, they would be limited so that it is fair to all of the organizations participating. We continuously review our prizes so that we can review new prizes, including endowment and more random chance. And also, like Nathaniel said, the previous, if someone has not previously received a prize, then that's a new one that we're having this year. I also want to stress that Center Foundation reserves the right to disqualify any organization from participating in the event and/or receiving stretch pool dollars or prizes at any time before, during, or after the event, if in our discretion we believe there's been a breach of the rules or deception on the part of the organization. So let's talk a little bit more about the prizes, the stretch pools, and the fees. So on the $300,000 stretch pool, it's the online gifts, minimum of $10, and that's continuing for 2026. Maximum of, like we said, $10,000 per org per donor qualifies. So the more dollars your organization raised, the more you received. Like we said, up to a limit of 10% of the total pool per org. The $200,000 stretch pool is online gifts, again, minimum of $10 and maximum of $10,000 per org qualifies. So that means if you raise $11,000, only your first $10,000 qualify. So this helps to spread the dollars a bit further. So both large and small organizations are up to a maximum of $10,000 per organization. But like Nathaniel said, in order to qualify for this bonus pool, you have to have a minimum of 20 unique donors. So we really encourage everyone to use the skills that they've learned throughout all of our success series and go out and seek more of those donors to help you win a portion of that $200,000 stretch pool. We will continue the $40,000 in prizes for 2026. But I do also want to say that the donor advised gifts, the IRAs and the QCDs and appreciated stocks qualify for the pools, but they do not qualify for prizes. Also on the IRAs, we have a 2% fee on IRAs that we receive. So who gets the money? Nathaniel touched on this before, and I want to go into this just a little bit more detail. The money comes into Center Foundation, and Center Foundation records the contribution from the donor and provides a grant to the qualifying organization. Center Gives provides the automatic receipt to the donor, which again, like we said before, certifies no goods or services were provided in exchange for this contribution. Remember, this is an IRS rule. You can thank the donor, but no tax receipt. So at the end of Center Gives, you will get a grant from Center Foundation. And it will be the contributions, less fees, plus donor advised grants, stretch pool percentage, and any prizes won. And again, this year, we're also providing ACH payments to provide grants more timely. So for those of you that want to participate and have your distribution by ACH, we encourage you to sign up. Just to reiterate once again, Center Gives in the circle of funds. Make a contribution to Center Foundation. Center Gives provides the tax receipt. Center Foundation tallies the gifts received and determines the stretch pool. Center Gives provides the prizes, the DAF, the fees, the stretch dollars, and it's determined on a per organization basis. And then Center gives grants issued to the participating organizations via check or ACH. So last year, we raised over $2.8 million with 17,800 gifts and over 230 nonprofits.
Thank you, Carrie. That was very helpful. We hope that this was a good introduction for you. We are certainly here to answer any questions you may have, and I'm happy to, route you to the appropriate person to answer any questions you have. But hopefully that clarifies everything for those of you that are new or need a refresher on how Center Gives operates. So thank you for taking the time to watch this, and please don't hesitate to reach out to one of us if you have any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.